Good morning, Dr. Neeta Mathur from Sri Govind Singh Gurjar Government College, Nasirabad. Today we will talk about what is the definition of dramatic monologue. Basically, before we begin to look at the poems by Robert Browning in detail, we first need to know and understand what is actually meant by dramatic monologue, since Browning was proficient in this technique. Definition of dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue means self-conversation, speech or talks which includes interlocutor presented dramatically. It means a person who is speaking to himself or someone else speaks to reveal specific intentions of his actions. However, in literature, it is a poetic form or a poem that presents the speech or conversation of a person in a dramatic manner. Features of a dramatic monologue. A dramatic monologue has these common features in them. Number 1, a single person delivering a speech on one aspect of his life. Number 2, the audience may or may not be present. And the third, the speaker reveals his temperament and character only through his speech. Types of dramatic monologues. There are three major types of dramatic monologues, such as romantic monologue, philosophical or psychological monologue, and conversational monologue. Some dramatic monologue examples from literature will be looked at later. First, let us look at some more details about what is a dramatic monologue. The meaning and function of dramatic monologue. A monologue functions as a tool to give vent to one's thoughts. It provides an opportunity for the poets to use powerful words spoken through their characters. So, the characters can express themselves or their ideas without an obstacle or hindrance. A dramatic monologue is also a convenient device to present different characters and their inner thoughts through verses. Dramatic monologue, which is a poem written in the form of a speech of an individual character. It compresses into a single vivid scene a narrative sense of the speaker's history and psychological insight into his character. Though the form is chiefly associated with Robert Browning, who raised it to a highly sophisticated level in such poems as My Last Duchess, The Bishop Orders His Tomb at St. Praxed's Church, Fra Lippo Lippi, and Andrea del Sarto. It is actually much older. In other words, it has its roots far into the past. Many Old English poems are dramatic monologues. For instance, The Wanderer and The Seafarer. The form is also common in folk ballads, a tradition that Robert Burns imitated with broad satiric effect in Holy Willie's Prayer. Browning's contribution to the form is one of subtlety of characterization and complexity of the dramatic situation, which the reader gradually pieces together from the casual remarks or digressions of the speaker. The subject discussed is usually far less interesting than what is inadvertently revealed about the speaker himself. In other words, the speaker exposes himself without realizing he is doing so. In My Last Duchess, in showing off a painting of his late wife, an Italian aristocrat reveals his cruelty to her. The form parallels the novelistic experiments, with point of view in which the reader is left to assess the intelligence and reliability of the narrator. Later poets who successfully used the form were Ezra Pound in The River Merchant's Wife, a Letter, and T.S. Eliot, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and Robert Frost, of course, in The Pauper Witch of Grafton. These are just some examples. This form shares many characters with a theatrical monologue. An audience is implied, means it is suggested. There is no dialogue, and the poet takes on the voice of a character, a fictional identity or a persona. We'll look at what is a persona later. So what is a dramatic monologue? Dramatic monologue refers to a type of poetry. These poems are dramatic in the sense that they have a theatrical quality. You can almost enact them on the stage, in other words. That is, the poem is meant to be read to an audience with inflections of the voice, with emotion, with maybe expression which are coming through the voice. To say that the poem is a monologue means that these are the words of one solitary speaker with no dialogue coming from any other characters. As I said yesterday, it is not a dialogue. Dialogue means when two people are talking to one another, and a conversation means when two or more people are talking to one another. This is monologue, means there is only one speaker. Think of one person standing alone on a stage speaking to an audience. Certainly, you are part of that audience, but the poem usually implies that the speaker is mainly talking to a specific person or persons. The reason poets choose to write poems like this is to express a point of view through the words of a character. However, the tricky part is that often the opinions stated by that character are not the same as the views of the poet. They are what the character feels and thinks, and he or she is expressing themselves. Most of the time, the speaker is trying to convince someone of something and may or may not be telling the whole truth. Sometimes what the speaker does not say is just as revealing and interesting as what he or she does say in the poem. Here is an excerpt from the dramatic monologue My Last Duchess by Robert Browning, which we will look at in detail later, who is often considered the master of this type of poetry. To quote from the poem My Last Duchess, "Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one, and say, just this or that in you disgusts me. Here you miss, or there exceed the mark. And if she let herself be lessoned so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth, and make excuse, even then would be some stooping." Unquote. So what is a persona? A persona is a poem in which the poet speaks through an assumed voice, also known as a dramatic monologue. This form shares many characteristics with a theatrical monologue. An audience is implied, as said earlier. There is no dialogue, and the poet takes on the voice of a character, a fictional identity, or a persona. Because a dramatic monologue is by definition one person's speech, it is offered without overt analysis or commentary, placing emphasis on subjective qualities that are left to the audience to interpret. The history of the persona poem. Though the technique is evident in many ancient Greek dramas, the dramatic monologue as a poetic form achieved its first era of distinction in the work of the Victorian poet Robert Browning. Browning's poem My Last Duchess and Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister, though considered largely inscrutable by Victorian readers, have become models of the form. His monologues combine the elements of the control over how much the speaker, his monologues combine the elements of the speaker and the audience so deftly, so skillfully, that the reader seems to have some control over how much the speaker will divulge, meaning reveal, in his monologue. This complex relationship is evident in the following excerpt from My Last Duchess, which I had just read a minute back. In the 20th century, the influence of Robert Browning's monologues can be seen in the works of Ezra Pound and others. In Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, readers find the voice of the poet cloaked in a mask, a technique that Eliot mastered in his career. More recently, a number of poets have offered variations in the form, including Mirror and Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath and Daffy Duck in Hollywood by John Ashbery. John Berryman used the form in his series of dream songs, writing poems with shifting narrators, including his alter egos Henry and Mr. Bones. Now we will look at some of the examples from literature about dramatic monologue. Example number 1. Once again quoted from My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. The Duke, the husband of the Duchess, is talking to an unseen visitor when he points to a portrait of his wife hanging on the wall, and he says, indicating the portrait, to quote, "That is my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now." Fra Pandol's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Fra Pandolf was the painter who had made that portrait. "Will it please you to sit and look at her?" I said, "Fra Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance." But to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I, and seemed as if they would ask me, if they durst, that is, if they dared, how such a glance came there. So, not the first are you to turn and ask thus. Unquote. This extract is from the famous monologue of a duke. He tells his audience, possibly the father of his new bride, about his last duchess who could not survive his severity. It is a type of psychological monologue which tells the psychological state of mind of the speaker. Browning has exposed the Duke's cruel state of mind through this poem, My Last Duchess. Example number 2. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. I quote from the poem, "Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make a visit." This extract, which is from the poem The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot, who was a famous and popular modern poet. He has highlighted the thoughts of a modern young man who is madly in love but still hesitates from expressing it. Therefore, he faces an existential dilemma. The poem highlights his psychological state of mind through this contemporary monologue. This extract highlights this dilemma of hesitation in the very first line and then is repeated in the last line. Example number 3. Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath. "I have done it again," quoting Sylvia Plath. "1 year in every 10, I manage it. A sort of walking miracle, my skin bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless fine Jew linen," means a piece of cloth. This extract is from the famous monologue of Sylvia Plath's Lady Lazarus. It also highlights her psychological state of mind about her act of committing suicide and subsequent failure. She has likened this act to the Holocaust to create her own powerful monologue. And if truth be told, Sylvia Plath did commit suicide by putting her head inside the gas oven, and she suffocated to death. Example number 4. The Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. "The sea is calm tonight," to quote from the poem. "The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. On the French coast the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air." Unquote the poem. Dover Beach is another example of such an autobiographical monologue of Matthew Arnold. He has highlighted his own situation and his reaction over the sorrow that he is experiencing. This monologue expressed his thoughts about his bride when they were on the honeymoon on the same beach. He recalls the past and writes about the sea again. And lastly, when trying to understand a dramatic monologue, ask yourself these questions, dear students. Question number 1. What is the situation? Question number 2. Who is the speaker talking to and why? Question 3. The tactics the speaker is using to make his case. Question number 4. Does the speaker seem to change his mind during the poem? And lastly, question number 5. What do you think about this character and what he has to say? After looking at the meaning and definition of what is a dramatic monologue. Next, we will look at the poem My Last Duchess, which is prescribed for the BA Part 3 students in paper 1. The poem is obviously by Robert Browning, and we'll take a detailed look at it in the next lesson. Thank you.